My name's Mike Postons. I'm from a company called 3deepmedia, and we specialise in creating digital assets for the marine industry.
And what exactly is that?
Well, we mainly focus around 3D modelling of shipwrecks. So we're taking photos and videos and historic plans of wrecks, and we turn them into interactive 3D models that are then embeddable on websites and used in other formats, or video sequences for TV as well. We start off with researching the wreck, whether it's a modern wreck such as the Ocean Revival Project wrecks, or whether it's historic wrecks. So we look at gaining historic plans, old photos, and then through to underwater photos and underwater videography as well. Using that, we basically produce digital models using a sort of industry standard 3D modelling program, and we basically look at all the specific details. We try and add as much detail as possible to the model. Once we have these sort of interactive models of the original ship and the shipwreck, we can then turn these into more interactive platforms using web software, as well as other sort of game engine based technologies as well.
And who uses this? Who's your main client? Or clients?
We've done work for the Nautical Archaeological Society in the UK, so a lot of historical wrecks there. Some of our previous clients include NOAA in the United States, where they've got a lot of historic wrecks in the Great Lakes. So we worked on a project out in a place called Thunder Bay, which has sort of over 200 wrecks in about sort of 20 square miles. So it's a sort of very key place for their sort of history. Apart from that, we work with a lot of tourist boards. So the tools we create are good tools for marketing a destination, because it really gets people excited about diving a specific dive site. And so if they can see a shipwreck that they want to dive and spin it around and look at photos and videos that are pinned onto it, then people are very encouraged to go and visit a place and actually go diving.
So the end product is available to anybody in the end. So after your client has commissioned you to do this, it's then free for anyone to use.
Yep, that's the way we work. We like to produce stuff that ends, so the end user has it free. So there's no sort of, they're not paying to get access to it, because I think the main thing is promotion of scuba diving and getting people excited about diving a place. And so the more people that see the 3D tools, the better. And in that sense, the reason why we focus on web technology is because it's so accessible. We've got a worldwide audience, and if we can embed our 3D tools in websites, it means that the whole world can see it, whether it's someone in Australia or America, New Zealand. It doesn't matter, everyone can have access to it.
What platforms? It works on anything? On your iPhone, on your normal phone, on your laptop?
Yeah, it works on mobile phones, tablets, works within web browsers, so on all computers. We also have sort of local versions that can work on large touchscreen displays. So we work with some museums to create interactive touchscreen exhibits, and so people walking around a museum can look at these sort of historic wrecks. We did one recently for the Nautical Archaeological Society that was a submarine called the A1, so a very early submarine. And we did a model of the original submarine, and then an internal view of it, so you could see all the internal features there, such as the batteries and the ballast tanks and the torpedoes and where they were stored, and then through to the actual shipwreck itself. And you're able to switch between the sort of tabs and see the 3 stages of how it actually sits on the seabed today. But when we also pin on photo and video markers onto the 3D tours, and so you're able to see actual photos of what the shipwreck's looking like, as well as videos from sort of key areas of each wreck. Every shipwreck or dive site is different, and so they all present their own challenges. It can be as quick as a couple of weeks from doing the research to producing something, and that really comes down to the quality of information that's available to us. A lot of clients come to us with a huge variety of resources already gathered for an existing dive site, and using that we can quite rapidly produce these 3D models. And then using the interactive system that we have in place, it is fairly quick to actually produce an interactive tour as well. However, if it's a site that has limited resources and requires a lot more analysis, then it can take months to do certain things. So the Ocean Revival project is one example. They had a lot of resources for the actual for the ships and the actual wreck itself, but the complexity of modelling all the internal components there's a lot of work involved, and it requires analysing a lot of video footage and a lot of plans and cross-checking between all this information to make sure it's right, and that's where the sort of real time and effort comes into it. But it does vary. It can take the amount of time varies a huge amount.
And do you go and take that video? Do you like it specifically shot in a certain way?
I would like to go and shoot all the video myself, but the unfortunate thing about the internet nowadays is that I can connect with anyone around the world, and they can send me footage, and so it usually ends up being the local dive centre or the local tourist board, or the client will end up sending the footage from their own divers. But in an ideal world, I'd like to be out there and going and collecting it. In terms of how it's shot, it's basically the more information the better, and so in terms of a video, I don't really care how professional the video looks, as long as within the video the camera is pointing at all the key information that I need to see, so all the sort of key features. And it often happens that the one bit of information that I need in a video is the direction that the diver's looking the wrong way.
So are you able to guide divers into the specific images that you want?
Yeah, usually I'll take what information they have initially, and then I'll give them a list of sort of key areas that I need more detail required on, and then they come back to me. A key example is I did a model of the Farood, and I was working with Divewise in Malta, and I spoke to them in the morning and I said, right, I need all these key shots from the Farood, and by the afternoon they were back and emailed to me from that day, which was, I find that fascinating, the fact that the wonders of the internet now, I can speak to someone in a different country, they can go and dive a wreck and then send the information back to me the same day, and I was able to crack on with the modelling in the afternoon.
And what about historically reconstructing wrecks that aren't complete on the seabed? So if you have artefacts or a part of a wreck hull on the seabed, you've got pictures of that. How can you then, or can you actually recreate an image, a 3D image of what that wreck was like?
Of the original ship?
Of the original ship.
I find we often work the other way around. We often try and get as much information as possible and build the original ship as best we can first, and then break it down into a wreck, and that way we can kind of understand how the wreck site has developed over time and broken down, and what has been lost in what sort of areas. Arguably a timber sort of framed wreck that's lying scattered over the seabed is quite hard to map accurately because of the how scattered it is, and you're not seeing the sort of the hints of where key aspects of the wreck are. So another project we work on was the Scubaverse website. For that we produced 3D models of 7 of the high seas fleet wrecks that are up in the Orkney Islands. Because of the poor visibility that can sometimes be found in that area, we built 3D models of the original ships and then compared them to what information we had of the shipwrecks on the bottom. Even though we had limited video and limited photos, we were able to start second guessing where key components from the original models might have fallen or been moved around, and so that was quite a sort of useful tool for building the model. But we also work with point cloud data and side scan sonar data, and so we can import that information into our 3D software and produce a mesh from it, and then we actually build a new polygon model based on that mesh. And so you can do very, very accurate modelling based on all this different type of information and bringing it together.
How long have you been able to do this? I mean, how old is the technology?
I started this as a project in university about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a final year project. And when it actually started, I went diving off the Lizard, and I was diving on a wreck called the Volney. And I asked the skipper, I was like, well, what does the wreck look like? And he said, oh, well, you've got 2 boilers here, and a donkey boiler there, and some wrecks there, wreckage there. And I was really confused. I was like, well, I was like, I'm going to get lost. I don't really know what I'm actually seeing. And I thought there's got to be a better way. And so I started thinking about what's the best possible way that this information could be displayed to divers before they go and dive a site. And as part of that research, I sort of thought, alright, well, if it was in 3D, if there's a 3D model, then that would be the clearest way of understanding it. And so I started looking at all the information for a dive site, producing a 3D model. But the trouble at that point is the technology didn't exist to make the 3D model interactive. There were ways of building 3D models, but making it interactive, and especially making it interactive online, which was my key goal from the start, the technology didn't really exist. And so it was only a couple of years later, when I was working as a Fourth Element's web developer, that it suddenly twigged to me that we could do this as a sort of 360 loop and work out how we could pin photos and videos onto these 3D models. But yeah, I was waiting for the technology to sort of catch up. And then nowadays we're looking at game engine based technology, so you can actually swim around the 3D environment in a truly immersive way. And in the future there's lots more technology that we're looking into. We're constantly keeping an eye out and seeing how the technology is progressing and trying to stay ahead of the game and provide the best possible experience to the end user.
Are you looking at developing technology like this, or are you simply piggybacking whatever turns out?
We're not specifically developing it, but yeah, we are sort of piggybacking on the best technologies that are becoming available, and especially when it comes to game engine based technology where you can swim around a 3D environment in a sort of your own free way. That technology is becoming simpler and simpler to actually do without full knowledge of game development. And so over the last few years we've been developing a system called Oceanbox that allows you to take a wreck and swim around it and see all the sort of key photo markers and all that kind of stuff that we have with these web-based tools. And that is a great use of technology as well. But they all sit side by side. I think there are appropriate uses for our web sort of 360 versions as well as these true 3D versions as well.
And where do you see the next stage of this, or the future of this? Where do you see it going?
What's always been in my head is the virtual reality aspect of it. But I feel that it's whether the actual end user really will appreciate it. I think that the solution we have at the moment with 3D tours, people are getting all the information they need from that, and they're finding it very useful for planning their dives and teaching people about different dive sites, or recording sort of archaeological sites. Virtual reality is definitely something that I want to look into with sort of Oculus headsets and ways that you can actually sort of truly get that immersive experience of being underwater and seeing the site itself. But deep down I always think that people need to get out there and actually go diving and see these places. This is only a tool for getting people excited about it and making people understand about what's down there.
And have you had feedback from divers who have used this before going to a dive?
Yeah, we've had lots of divers come up to me and said what a useful tool it has been for showing their trainees a dive site. When we did a project in Thunder Bay in the Great Lakes in America, I had a dive skipper come up to me and hug me and say thank you for producing this, because the amount of business that he's had come in, which really got local people excited. Well, not even local people, people from all over the States really excited about diving this area, and he was just so happy that finally they're noticing the historic wrecks that they've got up there in the Great Lakes.
What project are you working on now at the moment?
Let me think. What have I got next?
Or even at this moment, what's your current project?
Well, I could talk about Ocean Revival. I'm guessing that's the one I'm still working on at the moment. Ocean Revival is the project I'm working on at the moment. This has been a long a long project mapping the 4 ships that are being sunk as artificial reefs out there. It's a complicated project because we're doing all the internal mapping as well, and some of these ships are very complicated. They've got hundreds of rooms, and so it's like mapping a maze. So it's taken a while, but all the modelling is almost done for that, and then we're now producing the sort of interactive elements and all the sort of photo and video elements that we pin to the tours. After that, we're looking at some more work for Nautical Archaeological Society and English Heritage next year, as well as a few other random projects dotted around the world that I can't really say too much about, but yeah, fingers crossed it'll all come out.